Family communication patterns theory is a really useful theory for understanding how family communication dynamics in childhood can continue to have an effect on people into adulthood. The theory says that there are two orientations by which family communication can be understood: conversation orientation and conformity orientation. The idea here is that the way families communicate create this sense of shared reality or the shared view of the world, and it allows families to function. So the first orientation, conversation orientation, is really about how often the family talks and how open they are about a variety of topics. So if you come from a family where anything can be brought up around the dinner table and you often share these kinds of conversations, you probably have high conversation orientation. If some topics were kind of off limits, or you weren't very open with each other and didn't communicate as frequently or as openly, you probably have low conversation orientation. Conformity orientation is different. This really focuses on how much expectation there is for the children to follow the values and beliefs of the parents and to subscribe to those same values and beliefs. And so if your parents said things like, parents know best, just, follow what I'm saying here, and you were expected to share similar opinions with your parents and your siblings, you probably have a high conformity orientation. If you were allowed to make your own opinions and dissenting opinions were even valued, then you probably come from a low conformity orientation family. So the two orientations cross and form four family types. The first one is the consensual family type, and this is high on conversation orientation and high on conformity orientation. So these families tend to have open and frequent conversations, but the parents alone are the decision makers at the end of the day. So yeah, we can discuss all kinds of things. At the end of the day, the parents are probably right and should be listened to. Protective families are high on conformity orientation, but low on conversation orientation. So in protective families, children are expected to follow parents' rules without probably questioning them much or voicing dissenting opinions. Pluralistic families are high on conversation orientation and low on conformity orientation. So we're having a lot of open and frequent conversations, and kids can kind of make their own rules for the most part, right? Or at least have input in those rules. They're not necessarily expected to follow the parents' opinions and values and beliefs. Laissez-faire is the least common type of family, and these are low on conversation orientation and low on conformity orientation, so there may be really infrequent communication within the family and also no expectation there for the following of the beliefs and values of the parents. So kids are kind of more autonomous and let alone to do what they want. We know that things like family satisfaction and closeness are related to high conversation orientation, but there's a variety of outcomes for conformity orientation, some negative and some positive. So for example, people with high conformity orientation often avoid conflict. This is because conflict is seen as negative in that type of family. If you're supposed to believe the same things as the parents, then why do we even need conflict, right? So harmony is really seen as a marker of things going well in a high conformity oriented family. Conversation orientation is also a predictor of all kinds of positive psychosocial outcomes, things like adjustment and having positive relationships with others, especially in adulthood. So conversation orientation is across the board a good thing to develop in families. Conformity orientation comes with some good and some bad. Family communication patterns theory was developed by Fitzpatrick and Koerner. 2002 was their primary article proposing the theory. I suggest you check it out if you're interested in learning more about family communication patterns theory.